Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be making some awesome coasters with this fabulous yarn my boyfriend picked up for me from a thrift shop. It's cotton, I believe it's fingering weight, and I have a 4mm crochet hook here. And you can use any cotton that's fingering weight, so whatever you have laying around. If it's yellow, it's going to fit the theme better, but you can make it whatever color you want. So I'm going to start out here with a magic loop. So to make a magic loop, you just, I don't know how best to describe this. Just take a look at what I'm doing here. So I've got the tail yarn, I'm holding that with my thumb, then I wrap it around my finger, and then I hold the other end going to the ball with my other finger there. So I'm going to chain 3 here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and that's going to count as our first double crochet. So now what I want to do is I want to do 11 double crochets inside of that ring. So it's going to give us 12 total double crochets inside of that ring. So go ahead and place your double crochets inside of that ring, and I'll meet you at the end. All right, so now you're at the end, and you should have your tail sticking out here. Just grab that and pull it, and it should cinch that up. If it doesn't, then you haven't set the magic ring up correctly, so you'll have to go back and do it over again, unfortunately. So now find your chain 3 that you started, and then slip stitch into that chain 3. Slip stitch into that, and then now what we're going to do, you should have something that looks like that. It's just a little circle, so nothing too fancy at this point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the second row, which is going to be double crochet, chain 1 all the way across. So you can start out with a chain 2 like I've done here, but I prefer doing a standing double crochet, which is a little bit fiddly at first, but once you get it, it's amazing. So you can either do a chain 2 or a standing double crochet. So I'm going to do my standing, and then I'm going to chain 1 and get some more yarn here. This thing is so fiddly. All right. So now I'm going to chain my 1 here, and then in the very next stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet and a chain 1. So I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm not skipping any stitches. I'm just doing double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And when you get to the end, you're going to have your last double crochet, chain 1. Then you're going to slip stitch into that first double crochet that you did to start the round. And I'll meet you there at the end. All right, so I've arrived at the end here, and now I'm finding that first double crochet. If you did a standing double crochet, it could be a little fiddly to like get that slip stitch in, but you'll get it in there and it'll look amazing. So just work it in there, get your slip stitch in, and now we're going to do We're going to do something that's a little bit complicated. So it looks complicated, but once you get it, you're like, oh man, that's easy. That's easy stuff. So what we're going to do first is go ahead and now I'm going to do my standing, but I'm not going to do it all the way. I'm going to do a standing double crochet, but I'm only going to yarn over, pull through two. So I'm going to have two loops left on that hook. And then I'm going to do the same thing inside of that chain space. So I'm going to yarn over and then pull up a loop, but only pull it through two. So then I'm going to get to that DC there, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to pull through all of them. So I basically just 4 DC together, right? And then I'm going to do a chain 3. Now inside of that same double crochet that I did my last 4 DC together, I'm going to place my first of my 4 DCs. And then I'm going to place 2 of the DCs inside of that chain space and my last one in that last DC. And then I'm going to cinch off the 4 DC together. So I'm basically making 1 stitch out of 4 spaces, and that's going to create like a nice little sun ray looking type thing on the edge of that. So remember to go back into that same stitch you placed that last stitch in to start your 4 DC together. Place 2 of the half done DCs into that chain space, and then your last half done DC is going to go into that DC from the DC chain 1, and then cinch it all together and then chain 3. So you're going to do that all the way around. You'll notice that I chained 4 a couple times in here, and I ended up rolling with that and chaining 4, but I didn't like the way it turned out. And the original pattern I created had a chain 3. So just do chain 3. So 4 DC together, chain 3 all the way around. And then when you get to the end, you're going to have the 3 chain. That's going to be your last stitches that you do. And just connect those 3 chains to the top of the 4 DC together you started with. And I'll meet you there. All right, so now I'm at the end here. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into that starting 4DC together. And you should have something that looks like a sun at this point. All right, so now on to the next round. We're going to start here with a chain 1 and then SC in that same stitch. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to SC 3 times into the chain 3 space. And then we're going to SC once into the 4DC together. Now you'll notice that I'm putting 4 SCs inside of here. That's because you remember I did the chain 4 and I didn't like the way that turned out. So the repeat for this row is SC in the DC, 4DC together, and then 3 SC inside of the chain space. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. When you get to the end, you're going to end on 3 SC in the chain 3 space. And then just connect that last stitch to the first SC you did. And I will meet you there. All right, so this is what you should have. So far, it's coming along. And now we're going to do something a little different. So instead of slip stitching to that first stitch there, like all the way through, we're just going to go through the first loop, like the front loop only. And then we're going to slip stitch into the front loop. So it's only that front loop. Don't go through both of them. Go through only the front one. And then what we're going to do, once we've gotten that secured with a slip stitch, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be our first treble crochet. Now we're going to place treble crochets in the front loops of every single one of those single crochets. And it's very important that you only do the front loop, because in the next round, we're going to be using that back loop for something. So go ahead and place a treble crochet in each one of the front loop only single crochets all the way around. So you see here how I have the stitch. I'm going to set up my treble and I'm going in the front loop only. So see how that back loop is open? So I'm going in the front loop only. And then I'm going to place my trebles all the way around using the front loop only. So it's a front loop treble crochet, I believe that's what it's called. All right, continue on that way and I will meet you at the end. Don't slip stitch or anything. Just once you get done with your trebles, we're going to do something a little different on the next round as well. So I'll meet you there. So you might start to notice that your stitches are starting to fold inwards. And if you're worried about it, don't be. That's going to actually work to our benefit here in the next row. Whenever we do our next row, it's going to help us achieve that look we're looking for. So the point of this is to make these super tall stitches, and then we're going to go and do some folding single crochets that bend them backwards and then create a nice little rim around this coaster. So you're going to have a coaster that kind of just hugs the glass, and it's going to look really cute, and it's going to have a lot of texture, and it's going to have that little 3D effect. So now we've reached the end of the row. Notice I haven't slip stitched into that first one. So you see how it's curling up a little bit? That is totally fine. That's going to work to our advantage in a minute. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to find my chain 3 that I started with, and I'm going to get the back loop only of that third chain. So I'm going to grab that back loop, and then I'm going to look behind that stitch, and I'm going to find the base where that stitch is attached to, and I'm going to grab the back loop of that stitch. So you remember when we were setting them up, we did front loop onlys through our single crochets. Now we're going to grab the back loop of that treble, and then we're going to fold the stitches over on the back side. So grab that loop on the next stitch, and then go behind and then grab that loop that it's attached to. So that back loop from that single crochet. So it's essentially going to fold the stitches backwards so you get this nice little rim pattern on the edge of the coaster. So grab the back loop of the treble and then go down. Let's see if I can get a good view here for you. See that little back loop there? And then we got the back loop of the treble here, so it's attached to the bottom there. Perfect. So we're going to grab that, and then we're going to single crochet it together. So just pop you a single crochet in there. I'll show you one more time. So we go into the back loop here, go back and grab that back loop from the single crochet, and then single crochet those together. And you're going to do that all the way around. And then when you get to the end, it's going to be a little fiddly because those stitches, as you go, they're going to want to fold over backwards on themselves. It's just going to automatically start folding backwards. So you might have to open up the fabric a little bit to kind of see where you need to place that stitch. And then once you place your last stitch, go ahead and slip stitch into the first folding single crochet. And then I'll meet you there. All right, so I'm starting to come to the end of the round here, and you can see how the fabric is like folding in on itself. So it's getting a little tricky to get those in there, but they should align correctly with each other if you've lined them up all the way around in the correct positions. So just go ahead and keep doing your folding single crochets all the way around. And then make sure you get that last one as well. It's really important. It can be easy to miss it because they're already folded at this point. So make that last stitch there. And then there you go. Perfect. You see how it has that nice little rim? Flatten it out a little bit and it has a perfect little rim there for your glass. Now you're going to trim. So break your yarn here. Oh, careful, don't pull out the loop. All right, break your yarn and then grab your needle. All right, wait, I got the wrong needle. All right, there we go. Now we've got our needle. Flip your work to the wrong side and we're going to secure the tail that we started with first. And the best way to do this is to find out which direction that tail is going. So if it's going clockwise, then start weaving the tail in counterclockwise. So you want to provide a little bit of resistance to the natural direction of that tail, that yarn coming undone. And that's just the magic circle. So the magic circle is going to generally go in either a clockwise or counterclockwise direction. Just go opposite of that whenever you're weaving it in, so that way it doesn't unravel easily. And then always go the opposite direction. So go in one direction a little bit when you're weaving in, and then back up and go the other direction. And try to split the yarn if you can. I always try to split the yarn whenever I'm weaving it in, so there's like, it kind of locks it together. All right, when you're done weaving in, trim the yarn, and then let's weave in our last tail here from our finished edge. So if you notice a little bit of a wonky stitch somewhere along the finished edge, you can just go ahead and weave that down. So here I'm just going back and forth and weaving this in. Really, there's no set way that's perfect to weave in your ends that I've found. Just weave it in until you feel content that it's secure, and then always go back and forth. Remember, go one direction and then go the other direction. So that way it kind of locks it in. And then tug too. So when you're working, tug the yarn a little bit so it's not tightening your work up. All right, so I'm going the other direction now. I've gone in one direction for a little bit. And notice I'm splitting the yarn again. So that's one of my favorite things to do. All right, I think I'm going to put one more stitch in here just to make sure it's nice and tight. And now I'm going to trim. Let me put my needle up. I'm constantly leaving my needles laying around, and I'm trying to be better about it. So go ahead and trim, and then when you're done trimming, discard your yarn. And then there you go. You're all done. If you've made a beautiful coaster, a Hello Sunshine coaster for spring, I've got two here. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Mountaintop Yarn Co. And I'd love to see what you've made. If I've helped you make something amazing and you think I deserve it, give my video a like and feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to release patterns as often as I can come up with them whenever I feel inspired. So if you like knit, if you like crochet, if you like Tunisian crochet, subscribe.